I want to go back to something you said a minute ago when you talked about that as you're going through this painful process, you're on your knees, you're struggling, childhood trauma comes up, emotional pain, you know you've got 5 hours left to go. What did that sound like in your head?
It was crushing. So managing something so big ahead of you, for in my example, I was trying to manage 5 more hours of running. I was trying to manage 2 more summits in my mind,
Mm.
feeling terrible. That is overwhelming. Instead, I needed to manage the next step. That's the negotiation. It wasn't managing this really big thing in front of me. It was breaking it down, and it was literally a step-by-step management. Okay, can I get to my feet? Can I take the next step? Where's the next rock I can sit on? I had to break down this really big thing with how terrible I was feeling. I had to break it down into the smallest, most actionable steps, because the moment I started to calculate, oh God, 5 more hours of this, the moment that story started to build up, it was just further making it so unnecessary suffering. That's what that was. So it was a very active negotiation into keeping things small.
What a beautiful process. I know The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle talks about that, of the importance of coming back to the moment, coming back to now. When we think about the future, oftentimes it can be too daunting, whether it's 5 hours or two peaks, or it's just dealing with whatever a person's dealing with in their current stressful state. But when you come back to now, there's really just one decision. There's one moment. Can I put one hand in front of the next? Can I stand up? Can I do these things? I love what you said earlier, where you said that training is easy, but the competition is really what pushed you beyond. Because, and I guess I've never really thought about it that way, because when you're training, you do have the ability to tap out at any point in time. If you're out on a run, you can call and get help. If you're in the gym, you can set those weights down. You can say, well, I'm going to come back another day. But challenging yourself in something like this ultra is really an ultra challenge for your emotions. It's an ultra challenge spiritually. It's an ultra challenge for your mind. And you can't tap out the same way. And I think that this experience proved that.
Yeah.
Is that why you're doing the next one?
It's why I'm doing the next one, because, I've been in therapy for years. I've done a lot of self work for a really long time, and nothing, absolutely, yes, I've learned great things. I've acquired great tools. Nothing prepared me for that moment in that race, 5 hours away from that finish line.
Wow.
That race was more therapeutic than any other thing I've done in my entire life, because everything else I was safe. I was always trying to work on myself when I was safe and when I was comfortable and when I was sitting in a chair talking about emotions. And that is great. It's good. But it never got to the heart of things, man. And it never got to the deep, deep down demons. The weakest parts of myself were never exposed, because I was always still trying to make myself comfortable. Even after a hard therapy session, I'm gonna go treat myself. What kind of meal? Let's go get some sushi, right? Let's have it was always like rewards and treats and niceness and self-love and self-care. And I'm a huge proponent of that. But you can't work on yourself while you're comfortable. And even when I was in therapy, even through the trauma I've been through and the really hard things, that stuff was uncomfortable, but I could always find comfort. I could always find comfort in that moment, or immediately through an external mechanism, even if it's like a TV show, a familiar friend, a conversation, a vice, whatever it was. There was always
Yeah.
this like ability to just kind of pull myself out of the discomfort and make things a little easier, make things a little bit more bearable and tolerable. And there was none of that on that run. There was no comfort for miles, for hours, I should say. And so I was put in an environment where there was no vice. I was strictly left to my own thoughts, my own emotions, my own experiences. And I was so physically worn down that there was no effort to maintain ego. There was no extra energy to protect myself. I was like a warrior who couldn't even lift up his shield anymore. And that's what that run did. That is also what I failed to realize with training. And it feels so silly saying this, but I thought training was physical. Okay, let's get the body capable of doing 20 miles, then 25 miles. How do we get the body to just be able to crank out 30-mile runs on a Saturday? It wasn't until the last 2 weeks of training that I realized, I think I missed the point of training. The last 2 weeks the last 2 weeks through the hard part of training, right? I had like a week or two taper. I had to run a marathon on Saturday, and then I had to run a half marathon on Sunday. And the idea was wear down your legs on Saturday. So by the time Sunday came around, you understood what it was like to run on tired legs, because that's what's going to happen in that race, right?
Yep.
So one weekend was to run a marathon Saturday, half marathon on Sunday. The following weekend was to run 30 plus miles on Saturday, followed again by another half marathon on Sunday. Those training runs, I put all of the importance on Saturday. Let's have a great marathon. Let's have a great 30-mile run. And I kind of half-assed the Sunday run. I thought the value was in the long run. It wasn't. It was in the day after, when you are tired and fatigued and broken down. Yeah. Those are that's why you train, is to break yourself down physically. So then you can figure out how to work through things mentally. And instead of waking up on those Sundays saying, let's go, I'm going to charge it, let's make it as easy as possible. Man, I just did a marathon yesterday. I just did 30 miles yesterday. Let's do a casual 13. Man, I should have sent that half marathon on Sunday as hard as I could so I could get closer to that emotional and physical wall that I ran into for the first time in my life in that ultra. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I just you're blowing my mind here with this idea of breakdown. I just made a note. Break down the physical so that you can train the mental in that second session.